Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to a different sort of commentary video today. Today, something came out on the DBD forums, at least at the time of the recording. Something came out on the DBD forums that I found pretty interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it highlights a very, very bad mentality in the DBD community, and I feel like, you know, to give credit where credit's due, I think Behavior actually reacted pretty intelligently and wisely to this fact of what's going to happen if we try to highlight if SWFs would be identified in the lobby before you hop in. So the idea that's kind of been going around and has been for a while is that SWFs, obviously they have the accessibility to comms like Discord and stuff like that. And even if they are stacked up, typically they have an idea of how the certain players play in their groups. So if somebody, you know, is a more altruistic player, obviously they probably know that guy's probably going for the save and prefers going for the save, so they don't have to worry about it themselves. So they don't have awkward things like in solo queue where you're not sure which of you is going for the save, you end up going late and they go to second. Just weird stuff like that. Essentially, groups are more efficient in Dead by Daylight just naturally. And the Killer Main community for a long time has kind of rallied for this idea that if people are grouped together, if they are stacked, we should know about that beforehand. That way we can, you know, hop on with stronger add-ons or stronger builds to kind of accommodate for that skill gap that is being kind of like strengthened by the grouping of people. Now, this was something that was raised on the DBD forums, which is what you're seeing up here in the top left, up in the usually what is the B-roll box. And Peanuts, who is the dev community manager, actually made a response to this that I think was very, very tactful and actually made a whole lot of sense as to why that's possibly not in the game. I'm not going to read this whole thing out to you. I'm going to read the important parts, the things that stuck out to me. If you'd like to read the whole thing, I'm going to put the article down in the description down below. So if you want to read that yourself, it's going to be there for you. But there are some important tidbits that come out of this that are very, very important for us, not just for this conversation, but in general, just as knowledge about DBD. He starts off right away by saying that groups of 2 or more make up about half of the survivors in Dead by Daylight. That's pretty crazy. Make up about half of the survivors in Dead by Daylight are people that are at least playing with one friend, at least in a duo. So half the players are in solo queue, and well, over half the players, whole half the players are solo queue, and then a very, very high percentile, close to half, is a duo or higher. So that's already 2 big things that we've learned so far, just based on this information that he has put out. First, of course, being that majority of people do still solo queue. Majority of people in the game do still solo queue. We had a react video a while to one of Gary's videos, the Hot Cross's videos, talking about how, like, you know, buffing solo queue makes sense and this sort of thing because solo queue is the most played role despite it being the weakest role. So now we see that confirmed that, you know, while it's almost half in terms of groupings, you know, solo queue still has the majority. So that is still the majority way that Dead by Daylight is played, is by solo queue survivor. So yeah, that is the most populous role. Good to know. Good to know. Secondly, yeah, that gap isn't that huge. That gap isn't that huge. Apparently, it's almost half when it comes to people actually playing at least a duo or a group. So yeah, a lot of people are playing together, and it's just more common than you think. Way, way, way more common than you think. I think that latter part for me is a little bit more like expected. I think like most people play with a friend, you know, because it's a social game. It's a, you know, obviously you need a 4-man team to enter the game. So I think it makes sense that people are at least playing with at least one friend, especially since sometimes the game doesn't get too particularly fun. So if you can suffer together with friends, that would obviously make it better. I think the important thing that Peanuts highlights here is that a vast majority of people are just usually casually hanging out with their friends and are no harder to kill than anyone else. I know that despite, you know, when I end up playing DBD off stream, it's not very often. I'll probably make a video about why I really don't play DBD off stream anymore. But like, it's not very often. When I do play DBD off stream, I play with 2 of my friends, one being like a prestige 70-something player with like 8,000 hours, and then my other friend, who I think also has like 8,000 hours, who has a P100 Fang, and I have a P54 Jeff. So like, you see the 3 of us roll up into a lobby, right? And you're like, oh my god, experienced survivors, I'm gonna have to run quad slowdown and sweat. And it usually, our matches usually do end up going that way, is that, you know, my friend, the P70, like Michaela, usually does end up getting tunneled out of the game pretty early, or they go after my Fang friend. But yeah, one of the 3 of us usually gets like hard tunneled at like 4 or 5 gens, and the killer's builds are usually pretty oppressive because, you know, they see the high prestiges. They see that, you know, clearly we're probably grouped up if we all like care about like high prestiges and that sort of thing. So they go harder, right? But like Peanut said, like, we don't care about winning. We're just doing it to hang out with our friends. My P100 Fang friend basically, like, for the most part, they only play DBD. That's like their favorite game. That's like for the most part what they want to do. So that's like what we play when we play together. It's not like we're going in there to like stomp killers. It's just that's just what he likes. So that's what we play with him, you know. So like I like that Peanuts pointed this out, because it's like, yeah, most people do kind of play casually even if they are in a group. So just because people are playing together does not necessarily equate to they're going to be sweating, which is kind of like the implied thing with this theory that a lot of killers throw out there. Yeah, I like the middle part that he posts here, is that even competent solo queue players can do really, really well sometimes. And then sometimes the 4-man SWFs actually just like blow chunks. It is for the stuff that he just talked about and that I'm talking about, is that sometimes people are just in a 4-man just to mess around. Just to go have fun, and just to go like relax and just do stupid stuff with their friends. A lot of people are not playing in groups to actually like, you know, have an advantage. And sometimes you get 4 solo queue players that have really, really good map awareness, and they don't need a whole lot of comms to do well. They don't need a whole lot of extra information to do well. Infamously, I made a video a long time ago, while I was a hardcore killer main, by the way, which was something that I find wild. While I was a hardcore biased killer main, I made a video a while ago, you know, asking the question, is solo queue cheat, or not solo queue, is SWF cheating? Is SWF on comms cheating? And I actually said no to that. I said that SWF on comms was not cheating, because like, if you get 4 solo queue players who have really, really good map awareness and have really, really good game sense, sometimes they got to start mimicking comms just because they know what to do at certain points. And it's more common than you think, pointed out by Peanuts, who has the data to back this up, that a lot of games are won by just competent 4 solo queue players. Like, it's not very common, but like 4 good players together on a team without comms can replicate these kind of things just kind of naturally, just because they're all good at the game. And I like that he points out down in this paragraph is that it will become something of a scapegoat when it comes to people's attitudes about the game, because man, DBD players are whiny, crying babies. You see them down in the comments below sometimes. You see them just like piping off and whining and freaking out over literally nothing and just like baby raging. It's incredibly common for people to react that way, unfortunately, to Dead by Daylight. So, but it's like something we gotta, you know, treat realistically. Like, it's not something that's clearly not going away. We just have a very whiny, entitled community. So adding the idea that you would be able to see SWF, see people stacked up in your lobbies, they would really actually just start blaming every single loss on, well, it's just comms, it's just comms. And that landslides into, should we remove comms from the game, which is, we shouldn't. It's not illegal to play with your friends. It's really not. I don't know why that's still something we have to argue about in 2023, but apparently we do. Why are we not allowed to play with our friends? But, you know, apparently that's just something that people care about a lot in this game. So that's the landslide that this will lead to, is like, if you start seeing your stats and you start seeing that, like, you know, if you start seeing that you're losing a lot to groups, you're going to want to have groups and comms removed from the game, and that's not a good direction. And also, on the flip side, what she also points out is, like, sometimes you're just going to lose a lot to, like, people who actually are in 4-man solos. Just because they're good players. Just because they're good players. Like, 4-man solos and they all do well. And then it's going to be like, oh, well, Survivor's too strong and I hate everything, you know? Even though Survivor got ridiculously balanced besides, like, a handful of perks in this 6.10 patch. But I did like, in general, to summarize what I'm saying here, is that I do like in general that he points out that this information, while it would be helpful, will kind of mostly go in a direction where people just kind of use it as like an excuse to play the blame game and point something on someone else. And it's just like, I agree that I don't think it would be healthy. I really don't think it would be healthy at all. And the final thing that I'll point out here, because he kind of just like restates his point here at the end, is that, yeah, when you go against a 4-man comms with, they actually are trying, it's really painful. It's really painful. I had a match 2 weeks ago where I fought literal comp players. Obviously, they weren't playing it with the same intensity that, like, they were trying to win like a comp match, but like, they're a comp team on comms going hard, you know, and that's like, that's just how they play. That's the way which they play the game, even if they tone it down just to play casually. They are comp players, you know? And I got like 2 hooks? I got like 2 or 3 hooks. But I had a really fun match because, like, obviously, like, I was like what it was like to face really good survivors. Like, it was like, you know, perfect gen efficiency, really good loops, really good hook saves. Like literally they were doing everything like perfectly. because, you know, they're doing call outs, they're doing all this stuff that, like, you know, like they were good. They were really, really good. And it was actually a really enjoyable experience. Because, like, I got to see, like, what it was like to actually face a team like that. Because if you listen to, like, the way DBD players, like, talk, you would think they were going against these kind of players, like, literally all the time. And the reason I knew this for a fact, by the way, I want to point this out very, very early in this conversation, this topic, is that I knew they were because I know them. I've watched their streams before. I know that they're on a team, and and if they aren't on a team, they have active experience on a team. Like, a couple of them just competed yesterday in a match, in a tournament. So, yeah, like, I knew. I didn't assume. I knew. That's another thing a lot of DBD players do, is they assume. No, I actually knew these people, so. But yeah, it was a rough match. It was really horrible. I didn't get a single kill. I got, like, 3 hooks. But no. Oh, I got like 5. Because I remember one of them came in afterwards and said, like, oh, you got 5 hooks. That was pretty good against a team of our caliber. I was like, oh, cool. Neat. I didn't know that was good. Yeah, but point being is, like, yeah, of course it felt bad to just get, like, dumpstered, right? Like, I was still impressed with how well they were playing, but, like, it felt bad to be dumpstered. But, like, I don't remember the last time I had a match like that, right? Usually when matches go wrong for me, it's because somebody brought, like brand new part, hyper-focused stakeout, and, like, rushed gens really quickly. Like, it wasn't because they actually played well. So, like, realistically, you're not, like, running into these kind of teams very often at all. And it made me really, really happy to see Peanut's kind of point this out, because this is something that, like, I feel like not a lot of DBD players like to hear, because obviously, like he said, it's a big scapegoat to be like, oh, it's SWF, or, oh, it's just their tryhards. You know, it's like they just, you know, they go there because that's, you know, if you don't go there, the loss has to be your fault, and that's a complicated thing for DBD players to accept. So, yeah, I like that that was his rationale, was like, hey, this would be great, but honestly, you're not losing to that impressive squads that often as you think, so stop saying that you're losing to 4-man Swifts on comms all the time, because stats-wise, you're actually not. But yeah, I just wanted to point this out, because I think that, you know, behavior makes a lot of weirdly odd decisions that I don't really agree with, that I find really puzzling, so I always find it really, really, you know, it's something to rejoice about when they say something that I think makes a lot of sense. And Peanuts, I think, here said a really good, quote-unquote, defense for why we don't get to see why people are stacked or not stacked. Because, you know, by and large, most people are solo queue gamers. And a lot of the time, you're just being beat by people who are, like, 2 solos in a duo. And on average, you're not actually facing 4-man Swifts on comms that often. So putting it in would just kind of, like, A, be pointless, and B, kind of lead to people just whining and crying more in this game, which we already have way too much of. So I actually fully agree with, like, his rationale as to why it's not in the game, and I see his point. I'm like, okay, well, that's something we can just live without. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think it would be nice if we could see who was stacked in the lobby beforehand, or are you more with Peanuts where you're like, I feel that creates more problems than it solves? Let me know down in the comments below. That's gonna be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all, but I do upload daily, so I will see you in the tomorrow zone. But if I don't, well, you know, I'll see you when I see you. Bye.